All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back to the Bigger Picture podcast. My name is Chase Dienhart, and today I'm really excited to introduce my guest speaker, CJ Walsh. Christopher Walsh is his full name, but everyone calls him CJ. I'm very proud to say this is my uncle, so I know I had some hesitations bringing him onto the show because it's like, family, he's related to me, but I think he's got enough good stuff to say that I can take a few comments about, oh, your uncle's on the show and stuff, but I think everyone can get some good content and good information from him. So I'll let CJ introduce yourself real quick.
Thank you, Chase. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. Uh, as you said, CJ Walsh, I'm a fitness instructor and a nutrition consultant. I've been doing this for 22 years. I love it, and I'm excited to be here talking to you.
Right on, Jay. I'm excited too. So to get right into this thing, growing up, I really knew you as a health nut. I would always I knew my uncle as a health nut, but I never really understood why. Why did CJ care so much about eating right? I always was CJ would order a salad. We went out to eat, and I was like, I want to enjoy the pepperoni pizza, or the cheeseburger. I just didn't get it. And so if you could explain, because it was at a pretty young age too, right? Talk about maybe getting how you got into the industry, how you started your health journey. When did you start focusing on becoming a very healthy version of yourself and focusing on the nutrition you put into your body?
Yeah, you got it. So I'll try to keep it short. A quick synopsis for you. I never even thought about what I ate growing up. As a teenager, as a young kid, I loved burgers, I loved fries, and I just ate what mom made. My mom made.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget my senior year in high school was the first time I got the first glimpse. My varsity baseball coach told me that I had slimmed down. And it was weird. It just snapped something in my head, slimmed down. I'm like, I never thought I was chubby or fat. And from it was that moment on, it was so vivid. And I mean, he was giving me a compliment, but for me, I took it the wrong way. I'm like, well, I must have been chubby. I must have been fat. And from then on, I started to think about what I ate and how much I was exercising. And I really got into lifting weights for baseball and for sports, and I really enjoyed that. But the nutrition aspect really didn't come until college. When I got to college, my last year, I met Sarah. No, sorry, I met Deanna Latson, and Deanna Latson was a nutrition speaker, and she saved her father from cancer by feeding him all vegetables, green drinks, taking really, she took meat and saturated fat out of his diet and really put in a ton of vegetables and had him exercising as well. So I started incorporating green drinks and more veggies and less processed foods. But I'm telling you, it was a roller coaster for me because you get really into it. You're eating your veggies, you're eating your salads, and you're feeling good out with friends and have a burger or have some ice cream. And it was like, oh my gosh, that tastes so good. I can't wait to eat more. And I would overeat. And then I'd feel guilty. And then I would start eating healthy again. So it was a roller coaster. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting you bring that up. A couple things came to mind when you talk about when you dug into that cheeseburger or had some ice cream, right? And I think it's like the dopamine that those like the sugar and those foods can release into your brain. Greens and stuff. So
Definitely. I totally,
yeah, I think that
yeah.
was super interesting. I think the dopamine has a lot to do with that. To get into my next question for you, because that was some great stuff about how you got into it, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. That as a teenager, you eat what's on the table. Like many people, that's the only option they have. That's the only option I got. You just eat what's on the table. So I think that's very relatable. So was there a light bulb moment for your career? And then I want to talk about, so you bring up the green drink, and I want to talk about Mr. Green Drink because that's another nickname of CJ's. So if you could talk about if there was like a light bulb moment, and then how Mr. Green Drink became like an official thing, official brand, all that.
Yeah. So really, I had three light bulbs. First was my varsity baseball coach telling me that I slimmed down. Second was Deanna Latson saving her father from cancer through nutrition. And then the last where Mr. Green Drink got started was from Sarah Pettit, a acupuncturist nutritionist I went to see. And she's like, CJ, you're eating way too many carbs. You love your carbs. And I did. Cereal, granola, you name it. And then she told me to start, she made me a green drink. And this was 2012. And the green drink didn't taste great, to be honest with you. It was kale, it was chard, and it was fennel. And she did put a little frozen pineapple, which definitely helped. Because without that frozen pineapple, it'd been like, oh my gosh, disgusting. So I took that green drink because I did feel better. And I added protein powder into it because I wanted it to taste better. And I usually did chocolate or vanilla. And so I started doing that. And then I'm like, well, this is helping me. How can I help my clients? So after every personal training or group training session, I made a green drink for my clients. And then my favorite part of my story here is one day I walked in to the gym and the dad, one of my clients brought his son in, and he's probably was like 8 years old, and he goes, Dad, is that Mr. Green Drink? And my face just lit up because this kid was asking, like, who's Mr. Green Drink? And that's where my nickname originated. And I've been, in El Segundo in LA where I work, and the name of my business is Mr. Green Drink Incorporated. So that's been really fun. And the green drink has really helped many of my clients and myself for years now.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome story. And that's why I brought that up with Mr. Green Drink. I didn't know that story. That's a super cool story because it's like, you're feeling like Mike Trout or like
Yes.
Steph Curry, like
Yes.
LeBron James treatment there. Famous person, Mr. CJ. But no, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And the Mr. Green Drink, it's like a super, like a unique name. And like with the Bigger Picture podcast, like, just like naming a company or a brand or anything, like I like the outside the box names, the ones that kind of make you could have multiple interpretations. So
Yes.
Mr. Green Drink, I don't know, it's cool, it's catchy.
Thank you.
To move on, I like the light bulb moments that there was multiple too. So it had to kind of like build on you, like you were interested, and there was like a light bulb, something clicked in your brain. But then you would go back, you would have that cheeseburger, you would go back to old ways, and there had to be a few more moments. Then there was the Deanna Latza with the cancer, she saved her dad. There had to be multiple things. That makes sense. And I really like that. So now to get into some personal development and what you work on for that, because I know like you're a physical coach, right? You're a physical trainer, so you're always trying to get people in better physical condition with nutrition, the workouts, all that stuff. But what about mentally? I know I've heard you talk about recently, like you might have started meditating. So what do you have going on to keep your brain sharp?
Great question, Chase. And I mean, the mental aspect is huge in how you view things. I always think about like when you put on glasses, how's your lens? Are you seeing things negatively? Are you having negative talk? Or are you positive and reinforcing? I call it PMA, positive mental attitude. And for me, it was definitely when I was younger, it was that vicious circle. And what I mean by that vicious circle is I would be, like I shared with you earlier, I was doing really well, 5 days a week, eating my salads, having lean protein, chicken, get my veggies in, and then boom, as soon as I had that ice cream or as soon as I had a brownie, it was like, that's all I wanted to eat. And then I was like feeling guilty and feeling bad about myself. And I'm like, that's not who I want to be. I'm a trainer. I got to show health and fitness. So I'm like, I got to get out of this vicious circle. And what helped me was mentally conditioning myself. Meditation definitely helped. Who you hang around with, your environment is huge. So I made sure I had people in my life that 80% of the time, 90% of the time were eating healthy, my friends. And of course, do I enjoy ice cream? Do I enjoy burgers like we've talked about? Yes, but that's once in a while, it's moderation, because I don't believe there's any forbidden foods. You enjoy food. It's nutrients. It's pleasure. We grow up with it. I mean, you got to eat to survive. But getting back to the mental aspect, what's really helped me is like understand, like, oh yeah, that's my kind of personality. If I go for that burger, if I go for that, sometimes I'll go way too much into eating fast food and junk food. But then it's like, okay, that's my behavior. That's kind of my way of dealing with things. And so I kind of taught myself, no, I got to do moderation. And I taught myself every 3 hours I can eat. And I that if you want to do that, or intermittent fasting has become really popular, and I think that's great too. The 16 hours, 8 hours, right? 8 hours you eat, 16 hours you don't. But for me, what really worked to get out of my vicious circle was every 2 hours, every 3 hours, I would eat something. And then I never felt famished where I had to grab something and overeat. So that worked. So I'm getting a little sidetracked. But to really finish your question, I
No,
think
it's good stuff.
meditation, I think positive mental attitude, and putting yourself into people you hang out with who also eat healthy and help continue your healthy habits.
No, it's all good stuff, CJ. That was a really good segment, and it actually brought up a few thoughts of mine. So when you're talking about the people you hung around with, and trying to break certain cycles, and trying to lock into like a lifestyle instead of like trying something, like instead of trying a new diet, now you're going to make it a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think the thought that comes to mind is subconsciously.
Mhm.
I think, and I want to ask you this, subconsciously, did you know the importance of the people you hung out with and how that affected how you thought? And so did you know that that affected your subconscious, or was it just kind of like an instinct that maybe I should be careful with the people I hung out with, or did you really actually know? Because now there's like research that's coming out saying, that you are more likely to act the way the people you hang around act, right? So did you know that?
You know what? I think it was more instinctual. I mean, I have a really good friend who loves fast food, loves junk food, and he's a great guy, but I knew that I shouldn't hang out with him, for dinners or before, hang out afterwards or hang out before. And that definitely helped. And do it once in a while. Do I have dinner with him? Of course, but I don't have to eat what he's eating. That's another thing I've kind of taught myself is when I would go out, like you were saying in our first question, our first thing is I don't have to have burgers or pizza. I can enjoy a salad. And I train myself that I really enjoy salads. They taste really good to me. And for me, like a burger or fries, you eat in a couple bites and it's done. With the salad, I can enjoy more bites, enjoy the food, know I'm getting the healthy nutrients in my body. So then it goes back to your mindset of, hey, I know this is giving me nutrients to be my best. And number two, I'm enjoying. I think that's the key. If you enjoy the food, you're more apt to keep eating it. So I always tell my clients, find healthy foods that you enjoy. Because there's a ton of healthy joys. Like there's
Yeah.
delicious fish out there, right? Grass-fed steak is delicious. I mean, there's really good foods that's good for your body. Sweet potatoes, but I
Yeah.
think it's easy to get stuck on. Hey, I had In-N-Out or I had Burger King. It's so good. I'm just going to keep going there. But I'm
Oh
like, no,
yeah.
that's a once in a while treat. So I would say to answer your question is really more instinctual. I was like, my gut feeling was like, hey, be careful who you hang out with because it's easy to eat what they eat.
Interesting. Interesting. So that really helps me understand that you weren't targeting your subconscious,
Yeah,
which is great to know. There's nothing wrong with you targeting or not targeting your subconscious. You only knew the information that you knew.
yeah,
However, it sounds to me like the reason you have such a good mindset and such a positive mindset now, and the reason why you're a source of good energy for people to go, you're someone that fuels people up. I think the reason you've been able to get there is, I don't think you've always been that way.
mm,
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you built your own subconscious, not
mm,
really knowing. Like subconsciously, you kind of built a really strong subconscious for where you wanted to go. And it started with you realized, okay, maybe I can't hang around this friend that doesn't eat well at meal times. And that's a
Yeah.
super, super high level self awareness, right?
Right.
And that actually then definitely affects your subconscious. Same way when you say find healthy foods that you enjoy. Don't make yourself eat a certain amount of healthy food, 10 best healthy foods, so I have to eat these 10. No, you're saying find your top 10 healthy foods. Same thing then subconsciously. If consciously, when you eat that salad, you're telling yourself, this is good. I actually like it. It's not that bad. That
Yeah.
goes to your subconscious. Then the next time you're going to look at that salad, subconsciously, there's that little bit of momentum you got going on from the last time you were consciously thinking about it. So then your next experience, you've got that inner that inner feeling that's like, oh, last time it wasn't that bad actually, and then it just builds from there, and you probably ran with it.
For sure. For sure. For sure. And like that just reminded me of sardines. You've heard of the fish sardines. And like growing up, even I was like, that's gross. I'm not going to try that. And then my grandpa, bless his heart, passed away, but he loved sardines. But I'm like, I am never going to eat sardines. But I subconsciously, like being open to healthier foods, I was like, I'm going to try it one day. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was recent. This was probably 5 years ago, or even maybe it was 3 years ago. I tasted in olive oil. I'm like, this is actually good. I enjoy this. And I knew, again, my mind said it's so healthy for you. And then you just keep eating it and you like it more and more. It's amazing. I love that, how that
Yeah.
can happen. You, like you were saying earlier, you can really train yourself to like really healthy foods. But if it's a food that's healthy, you don't like it, don't eat it. But I always tell people, be open, try new foods, because some people are like, they just hear that name, sardines. No way I'm going to eat sardines. That sounds gross. But then if you try it, you might like it. I really like it in olive oil because I like the taste of olive oil.
Yeah, so you're saying like at least try the food, because
Yeah.
subconsciously you weren't out of the womb, oh, I hate sardines.
Yeah.
The stereotypical person that's like, oh, sardines, I never try that. Or for me, it's like kale salad, ew. I had one when I
Yeah.
was younger, but it's because I had one when I was younger that I hated. That's why subconsciously I don't want to touch a kale salad, you know? It's the same thing with those people that it's like sardines. Your advice is try it and then make the decision. Then it's okay to not like it, but at least try the thing. Then you have the clarity, and then you can go on to the next healthy food to try.
Yeah. And one thing also I wanted to add that you brought up to me was, when it's interesting how like your subconscious and your mind works. When I'm with family and friends, mostly more friends, I would say, than family, and it's also how you're perceived, right? I'm perceived as a nutrition coach, fitness coach, so I'm more apt to always eat that salad or maybe pass on the dessert. But when
Set
I'm
the example.
alone, it's a lot easier. Like, well, I could eat a dessert. I'm by myself, so I really had to train myself. Like, let's not go crazy when you're alone. You're really good eating with friends and family, because you already have that expectation of being my career. But I'm like, oh, when I'm by myself, I can eat whatever I want. I'm like, no, I mean, I can, but moderation and being, I guess, disciplined. And that's a really good thing to develop in life, is discipline in any area, from nutrition to exercise to work to, brushing your teeth.
Oh yeah.
Discipline is huge.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point you bring up with it being easier when the expectation, the standard was there, right? When you're
Yes.
out with friends and family, the standard, it's pretty obvious. If people see you eating cake, what type of like personal health coach are you? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't have like a company, it wouldn't be successful. So I see what you're saying. It's really easy when you're around people and the standard's there, but holding yourself to that same standard when no one else is around is a whole new game. It, as you said, requires a whole new level of self-discipline. And I think when you do it though, and you do have the salad when no one's watching, it only adds to that confidence. It only adds to your subconscious. It's going to be feeding it the same information that you want to be giving it.
I
So I
totally
think that's a
agree.
great point. It's way harder behind closed doors when you're the only one. But that's when I think you can get the most value from it. That's when you can get the most value, in my opinion.
I agree. And one other thing that I even do for myself and I preach to my clients is when you do eat the salad and no one's watching, or you do what the activity you want to do, but that you don't want to do and no one's watching, is celebrate. Because I think in our society, we don't give ourselves enough credit when we win, when we have a win. Celebrate that win. It's so easy, like, shoot, I had another bowl of ice cream or I had another cookie or whatever it is. Oh, I was lazy. I didn't do my homework. I watched TV. And then we're negative towards ourselves and not giving us that self love. We're either, it's more of loathing. And so it's like, no, celebrate those wins.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. When you do execute your game plan behind closed doors, you do have to give yourself a little pat on the back. Otherwise, you're
Yes.
not going to do it again because it was hard. You just pushed yourself. You could have had a much easier time, and you chose to do the hard thing. So definitely need to take some self appreciation sometimes. That's a fair point, CJ. So to wrap up this podcast, though, unless you had anything else you wanted to add, I kind of wanted to wrap it up there. I wanted to keep it somewhat short because I've already got plenty of value from you. So I know you got places to be. Did you want to mention anything real quick about the Four Agreements book? And I have the four listed here. I know we talked about that, and the reason I bring this up, guys, on the podcast is because a couple years ago I was struggling mentally. Went to LA, where CJ lives, stayed with him for a week. He really got me back on my feet. He taught me these four agreements he learned reading this book, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, no, it was such a pleasure having you visit, Chase. The Four Agreements was given to me by a friend, and it really changed my life. And it's just such a great book. And those four agreements are simple, but they're profound, right?
Right.
And you know, you know, be your word, honor your word, be
100% to
your
your
word,
word. Yeah.
100% authentic with your word, right? And then what's the second one? Don't take anything personal.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't take
and
anything
that's a tough
personal.
one
That's
because
so tough.
that's so tough. Exactly. But that, if you can do that, even if you do that like 80% of the time, because
Yeah.
it's just someone else's opinion and who knows what kind of attitude, what kind of day they had. There's so many variables. So think anything, don't take anyone's opinion. All right. And then number three, don't assume anything. That was number three.
Yeah, the second one leads into the third. Say, don't take anything personal because you're supposed to never assume you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I love that too, because my mind would definitely assume something. I'm like, okay, let that go. Don't assume it. You don't know. Ask the question. And that helps with business and that helps with life. Like you could assume, oh, that person's in great shape. They're not going to want to have a trainer or a nutritionist. No, you never know. They probably want to be even better shape. That's what usually
Yeah,
people who are in good
true.
shape want to go to the next level. So for
Very
sure, they're
true.
like, I was like, go up and ask him, go and talk to him. And that's like one of the best things that I've ever learned is be inquisitive, ask questions, ask for the sale, ask people to work with you. You got to do it. Because if you don't, it's like Wayne Gretzky's, right? Famous quote, you miss 100% shots you never take. Hello, take the
100%.
shot. And then just what was four was be impeccable, not be impeccable, give 100% in everything you do. And I think that is so great. Even if you don't feel good, because you're not always going to be like your best, but give your best. And so I love that book. Those four agreements are so great. And I think they tie greatly with your podcast and what you're up to.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you, CJ, for going through those four agreements because they still, as I said, and like you had to take a second. Sometimes I got to think, okay, don't take anything personal. Give
Yeah.
100%. You got to go through them, but it's like
Yeah.
they do come back to me consistently, and they really, I think, do teach a lot for personal life, but business as well. Just all around improving your life and your experience in life. And kind of why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place. So, CJ, I really appreciate you hopping on. This has been great talking to you. Like, I really can't thank you enough. This couldn't have gone better.
Nice.
I definitely want to start thinking about a future interview we can do too. Maybe one in LA this summer where
Yeah.
it's in person and I'll come down to you. But that'll be fun. So, everyone, thank you for listening. This is all we got for today's episode. If you guys want to hear more from CJ, I'll put Mr. Green Drink in the show notes. So, if you guys want to check out Mr. Green Drink, he's got a bunch of good fitness stuff going on, but we'll definitely get him back on the show. So, everyone out there, stay grateful, stay humble, stay hungry. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.